On the night of September 2nd, something major went down in Inner Mongolia. Families were up all night, and hospitals were packed to the brim. The government has come up with this new phrase, a so-called thunderstorm asthma, and it's a really scary situation. Loads of kids suddenly started having severe asthmatic attacks and eventually had no option but to head to the hospitals. This is seriously the biggest thing to have happened around here in years. Who knows if the officials will start taking this seriously? Things are really getting out of hand in our area of Inner Mongolia.
On September 5th, over at the Beijing Shijitan Hospital Allergy Response Center, a patient recounted a distressing experience. Following the recent torrential rains, they experienced a pronounced tightness in the respiratory tract, especially on the night of the thunderstorm and the following day when noticeable asthma symptoms emerged. While in the past, rain would alleviate the rhinitis symptoms, this time it significantly exacerbated them. This individual was also subsequently diagnosed with thunderstorm asthma. Director Wang Xueyan of the Allergy Response Center at Beijing Century Altar Hospital confirmed that in recent days, the hospital has treated 6 patients presenting similar symptoms. But is it really as simple as a thunderstorm asthma? In response to the widespread appearance of apparently asthmatic patients in areas such as Hohhot, the Chinese Communist Party's official media, Xinhua, stated on the 3rd that it was due to pollen from Artemisia plants triggering thunderstorm asthma, even arranging for doctors to provide explanation publicly. However, the next day, the authorities in Ordos contradicted this claim, denying that Artemisia plants could cause allergies. This situation inadvertently reminds people of the initial outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic in Wuhan, where the Chinese authorities altered its stance on the transmissibility of the virus 4 times over nearly a month before finally acknowledging human-to-human transmission. Simultaneously, on September 3rd, there were leaks by the overseas Chinese community. In a breaking news update, overseas YouTuber blogger LUDE Media reported an urgent tip-off from mainland Chinese netizens. On the morning of September 4th at 9 a.m., the Beijing Chemical Defense Brigade suddenly received orders to utilize nuclear protective gear to undertake a mission. Responding to the request of the Emergency Management Department, they were tasked to manage a radioactive material leakage incident at the coal mine in Ordos, Inner Mongolia. The coal mine in Ordos was under the management of the armed police and has been abandoned for many years due to corruption issues. This mine was acquired by Beiban North Bens through asset restructuring, gaining both land and mining rights. It has been revealed that the Chinese military is behind Beiban and the site is designated for military use. Initially, it was not an open pit mine. After being acquired by an Ordos coal tycoon who previously conducted open-pit mining in Junggar-Bana, the mine transitioned to open-pit operations. Since the commencement of operations on August 20th, a series of bizarre occurrences have been reported, including 2 mining transport drivers experiencing severe body decay and darkened urine. Initially suspected to be a result of infectious diseases like syphilis or HIV, it was later determined at the Disease Control Center that the symptoms were due to radiation exposure. The situation escalated to the point where lead coffins were utilized for the burial of the victims. The seasonal autumn rains in Hohhot, Baitou, and Ordos have exacerbated the situation by causing radioactive substances from openly stored coal to evaporate and disperse into the atmosphere through rainfall. While Beijing has been affected, the impact has been limited due to the barriers created by the Taihan and the Ying Mountains, resulting in lesser rainfall and localized convective rain. But in the aforementioned regions of Inner Mongolia, post-rain radiation material was detected. The Emergency Management Department initiated a trace-back investigation identifying the source at the open coal heaps in Ordos. It has been discovered that a portion of the mined coal has been distributed to various locations, including freight train yards and thermal power plants, raising concerns over widespread radiation contamination. The exact extent of the spread is currently unclear, but the urgency in the matter has led the Emergency Management Department to seek assistance from the People's Liberation Army Chemical Defense Unit for crisis management. According to the internal reports, the Chinese Communist Party is presently imposing a complete information blackout, attempting to conceal the truth of the matter. On September 5th, Gelun Jiang, a veteran media personality from mainland China, also echoed these concerns through his tweets.
This isn't just thunderstorm asthma. The Chinese government is basically pulling the wool over our eyes. This kind of deceit is just going to make more people suffer and even die. The reason for this spread of asthma in areas around Ordos is due to the reckless exploitation of coal mines containing nuclear radiation substances, causing a massive spread of radioactive substances, including uranium. The government's lies and attempts to cover this up are only creating a bigger crisis and causing harm to society. The first blow comes from ignorance and foolishness, and the second from some serious cruelty and malice within the system. So many lives are being put at risk by the government's deliberate lies, exposing them to nuclear radiation dust. This act is literally like intentional murder on a global scale.
On September 6th and 7th, Gelun Jiang shared several tweets highlighting the escalating situation. Following the nuclear leak in Ordos, Chinese companies have begun issuing internal preventative documents. Additionally, new evidence indicates that the amount of nuclear radioactive material released from coal in Xinjiang alone has vastly exceeded the uranium munitions released by the United States in Iraq. Furthermore, the coal in Ordos, which contains a significant amount of uranium radioactive material, has been dispersed across various regions in China, contributing to the formation of smog. Gelun Jiang recently criticized numerous media outlets both within and outside mainland China for neglecting the severity of the nuclear dust leakage, delaying their reporting by using various excuses. He pointed out that no matter how the Chinese government attempts to shift the blame, attributing the nuclear dust to other causes like thunderstorms, it cannot hide the fact that many people are already experiencing physical symptoms. Residents in North China are encountering respiratory symptoms similar to those in Ordos, with the long-term impacts of nuclear radiation yet to commence. Zhao also mentioned that the Chinese government is inciting hatred towards Japan by exploiting the nuclear wastewater issue, masking China's internal and external troubles, and inadvertently raising nationwide awareness of the potential nuclear radiation crisis. According to safety standards proposed by the International Commission on Radiological Protection and the World Health Organization, the acceptable safety radiation dose limit for an individual is 1,000 microsievert per annum, while those exposed to radiation in their profession, including medical personnel in radiology departments and nuclear power plant workers, have a dose limit of 20,000 microsievert.
年6月，申报矿业为神华集团旗下热电厂冬季生产储煤，这个矿开始大规模生产，最终导致放射性物质扩散。加上这个对流语啊，大规模生产就是堆在那里。
Further intensifying the concerns, radiation safety guidelines in Taiwan have designated hourly radiation levels below 0.2 microsievert as normal background radiation. Levels between 0.2 to 20 microsievert requires enhanced detection and investigation, and levels exceeding 20 microsievert per hour necessitate urgent radiation detection, signifying serious harm to humans. Shockingly, readings around the coal piles in Inner Mongolia have spiked to 1,004 microsievert per hour, exceeding the stipulated guidelines by over 50 times. In hindsight, these events match warnings from an article the Global Times republished from the South China Morning Post on November 19, 2012. The article had forewarned about the risk and hidden dangers associated with coal mining practices, explicitly stating the potential for nuclear pollution hazards stemming from coal extraction. The article mentioned that due to China having the highest number of nuclear power plants under construction globally, there's a need for uranium ore to fuel them. The media has been talking up the world-class and huge-scale uranium mines in Xinjiang, Yiling, and Inner Mongolia, Ordos. But here's the catch. These rich uranium deposits are buried among massive coal mine belts. Some insiders even noted that the rapid pace of mining is going to cause massive destruction in the uranium resources and hit the environment with radioactive pollution. In the article, a former head of the China National Nuclear Corporation 821 factory warned that the rapid pace of mining is going to cause massive destruction to the uranium resources and hit the environment with radioactive pollution. Addressing this issue, Gu Zhongmao, a professor at the China Institute of Atomic Energy and a senior consultant at the nuclear group, indicated,
The real problem is, if we let these mineral reserves sit there, they'll be destroyed by coal mining in no time. This means a huge chunk of China's uranium might end up in power plant furnaces instead of nuclear reactors, releasing a ton of radioactive ash that could threaten everyone's safety.
In a related note, Professor Ying Lianqing of the North China Electric Power University remarked,
The environmental dangers brought about by radioactive ash remain undisclosed.
Ying undertook experiments in several cities to monitor radiation levels in communities near thermal power plants, with the findings raising alarm bells.
We have found some cases of high radiation levels, several hundred times higher than near nuclear power plants.
This article unveils that the Beijing authorities were aware of the inherent risk involved with the ongoing coal mining activities. Despite understanding the potential harm radioactive substances can pose to human health, these concerns appear to have been sidestepped, possibly in favor of other interests. Consequently, residents near the mining areas and perhaps even a broader section of the population have been living with undisclosed environmental hazards for a considerable amount of time. The actual scale of the issue might have been remained under the radar if not for the recent wave of mass asthma cases, exacerbated by heavy rains and followed by nuclear pollution in populated regions, a crisis that has regrettably resulted in fatalities. Under the negligence of the CCP regime, the well-being of Chinese citizens are slowly deteriorating. According to information found online, the mine at the heart of the radioactive leakage incident mentioned at the start of the video is actually a labor reform mine, being a part of the Inner Mongolia's 5th prison, also known as the Liijia Pagoda Labor Reform Mine. In 1998, it was classified as an unlicensed coal mine and was under the stewardship of the Establishment Office of the Ordos Liijia Pagoda Coal Mine. In a notice released on June 22, 2020, on the Inner Mongolia Discipline Inspection Commission's website, it explicitly stated that the Liijia Pagoda coal mine is affiliated with the prison system of the Inner Mongolia Autonomous Region. Typically, enterprises operated by prisons in Communist China are unlikely to hire workers from the public. Instead, they generally employ inmates serving sentences, with the majority of labor being performed by prisoners. For officials within the Chinese Communist Party's prison system and their collaborators, this venture represents a profitable business with no capital investment. However, it is essential to note that the phrase "no capital investment" is not entirely accurate, as the investment here is the labor and potentially the lives of the prisoners within the system. Many incarcerated in Chinese jails are prisoners of conscience. On one hand, the CCP does not regard the inmates as individuals worthy of basic rights. And on the other, prisoners are commonly subjected to labor without any financial compensation. Inmates find themselves with no choice but to comply, as resistance could lead to physical abuse, solitary confinement, or even torture. This concerning situation escalated when Beibin acquired mining rights and extraction permits to the Liijia Pagoda coal mine through asset restructuring in 2021. Coinciding with this development was a spike in mainland China's coal prices, reaching 2,000 yuan per ton. Despite this surge in prices, the significant increase in operation costs due to outdated mining machinery led to a switch to large-scale open-pit mining by early 2022, a decision undertaken unilaterally by Beibin and the coal contractors of Zhangabana. The Liijia Pagoda coal mine, with an annual production capacity of 3 million tons, stands as a cash cow, potentially generating 6 billion yuan per year based on the current coal prices. However, the blatant disregard for the health of the workers, who have been falling ill continuously during the extraction process, soon became apparent. By June 2023, the mine ramped up production massively to stockpile coal for winter production at thermal power plants operated by the Shenhua Group. This resulted in a widespread diffusion of radioactive materials over the past 3 months. It is estimated that 740,000 tons of coal have been produced during this period, raising urgent questions about the quantity of coal distributed out and burned in power plants. In the earliest stages, when the coal mine was under the administration of the prison system, the victims were largely confined to the prisoners who were forced to work in the mines. However, following the acquisition by enterprises affiliated with the Chinese Communist Party's military, the repercussions now potentially extend to the rest of the Chinese population. The emerging issues in Inner Mongolia illustrates the Chinese Communist Party's historical involvement in extracting radioactive materials, a practice extending before Xi Jinping's time. Leveraging a foundation laid during the Mao era, the CCP has cultivated considerable nuclear enterprise and weaponization strategies over the years. While top Chinese universities are known for their nuclear physics programs, the widespread availability of engineering physics courses like those at Tsinghua University, which serves as a gateway to the nuclear industry, is less acknowledged. This steady stream of nuclear specialists graduating each year highlights the CCP's ongoing commitment to enhancing its nuclear capabilities. The erratic quality of China's uranium mines has resulted in the abandonment of many that don't provide substantial value for extracting nuclear raw materials, largely due to high cost. During the era of Chinese leaders Deng Xiaoping, Jiang Zemin, and Hu Jintao, economic growth lessened the necessity to profit from these mines, often leaving them semi-sealed, particularly when radiation was detected, as the potential dangers significantly overshadow the possible benefits. Recent events highlight a paradox in Xi Jinping's era. Despite his tighter grip on the CCP compared to predecessors, the governance structure reveals notable vulnerabilities. Past leaders managed to mask many issues with economic strategies and censorships, a tactic disrupted by Xi Jinping's more aggressive and ambitious approach, thus exposing numerous long-standing issues under the CCP's regime. This is due to underlying economic and resource challenges prompting current authorities to take desperate actions. Lower-level officials are now pushed to engage in hazardous endeavors like reopening previously known but minimally operated coal mines to fulfill economic goals. This recklessness, compared to opening Pandora's box, has triggered a surge in disasters across communist China since 2019, including the recent radioactive leak incident. These events suggest a significant level of exploitation and loss of grassroots control under Xi's regime, characterized by rigid upper-level control but lacking in proper guidance and support. This situation forces lower-level individuals to resort to desperate measures to achieve their objectives, potentially leading to an increase in similar accidents in the future. Moreover, many officials within the CCP structure are coming to a grim realization: evading one catastrophe doesn't guarantee safety from the next. The unpredictability of these disasters, coupled with the escalating crisis at hand, marks a worrying trend, forecasting a bleak and precarious future under the current regime.
This spent fuel contains many useful metals, like plutonium, which can be recycled and reused as a fission material in power reactors. It can also be used as nuclear material, and furthermore, plutonium can be used to make nuclear weapons in the military sector.
Another critical issue arising from this incident is the handling of nuclear waste or minerals with low-level radioactivity, including their potential usage in military operations. Despite their unsuitability for refining into welfare-ready nuclear materials, China's abundant reserves of these minerals could be utilized in the creation of dirty bombs. A dirty bomb is a conventional explosive laden with radioactive, biological, or chemical agents. Although less destructive than atomic or hydrogen bombs, they can substantially contaminate specific areas, harming individuals through direct radiation exposure or ingestion of contaminated substances. Experts familiar with the CCP's nuclear strategy point out a notable similarity between its approach to dirty bombs and viruses, including COVID-19. Despite being limited by the nuclear superiority of Western nations, the CCP maintains a vested interest in virus and biochemical weapons, as well as unconventional nuclear weaponry. This interest hints at an inclination to engage in unrestricted warfare, potentially employing biochemical weapons as unrestrained tools similar to viruses. The CCP has allegedly undertaken functional research to enhance existing viruses, facilitating their unnoticed global spread. Similar enhancement and clandestine experiments are suspected to be conducted with nuclear waste and other radioactive materials, preparing them for silent global diffusion and toxicity in the future. Analysts observe that these tactics fundamentally mirror the CCP's consistent strategy to avoid direct confrontation with the US and the West until a pivotal point of assured victory is reached. The CCP seems to prioritize unrestricted warfare and insidious tactics. There is a growing concern that the combined repercussions of the CCP's virus strategy, propaganda, and potential deployment of dirty bombs could lead to complete global disorder, setting the stage for a strategic, decisive phase in collaboration with Russia, although Russia's willingness remains speculative. Evidence indicates that the CCP's engagement with nuclear dirty bombs began before Xi Jinping's era, with his tenure amplifying its importance as a central trump card. In the realms of the so-called unrestricted warfare, the CCP holds several trump cards, including alliance with Western forces sympathetic to the CCP, the possible usage of viruses as unbounded weapons, and the deployment of nuclear dirty bombs, which could potentially supersede the damage inflicted by viruses. These dirty bombs pose an alarming threat, possibly even surpassing viruses. While viruses might be controlled and their spread limited with medications, the consequences of dirty bombs, once deployed, are nearly irreversible, leaving individuals with irreversible radiation damage. Current signs show that Xi Jinping is accelerating the deployment and refinement of unrestricted warfare weapons, intending to utilize them before achieving a decisive strategic victory. This hastened approach might lead to increased internal discord and tragedies under the CCP, exacerbating existing crises. With Xi Jinping at the helm, however, this strategy may have unintended consequences, as the CCP's recent media onslaught against Japan's nuclear wastewater release could potentially backfire instead.